Consider you're traveling in an airplane, and that airplane will be usually accompanied with a black box. The black box records various parameters of the flight, such as speed, altitude, direction, and the functioning of different aircraft systems. It also captures the conversations between the pilots and air traffic control. The black box serves several purposes, like if there's an accident, to investigate that, to preventive maintenance, performance monitoring, compliance, and safety. Similarly, in the context of software and systems, logging serves as a black box for application and infrastructure. Just as black box captures essential data, logs capture data about system events and activities.
Do you know why black box is an orange color?
Logging is one of the fundamental aspects for software development and system operations. And in this video, we'll dive a deep dig into it. There are various logging tools available along with the respective languages. For example, for Java, we have Log4j, Logback, and for Python, we have some inbuilt logging modules, Logguru, and in JavaScript, we have Bitston, Bunyan, and Morgan. And in C Sharp, we have Endlog, Log4net, Serilog. For Ruby, we have Logger and Log4r. For PHP, we would have Monolog. And for Go, we have Log and Zap and much more tools. We are not actually going to dig deeper into how to code in these libraries. In this video, we're actually focusing on whatever tools or application which you are using, like how to log and how to do a proper kind of logging, as per my opinion. For people who don't know what is logging is a process of recording the actual information of the system. That could be events which actually occur in the software application, and these entries which actually happen when each log is written are called log entries. These log entries include a variety of data such as timestamps, messages, error details, and other contextual information. Logging actually serves a way to track the state of an application over time. So why is logging very crucial for companies? And also for people who develop simple, fun projects? Logging plays a vital role in maintaining and improving the reliability, security, and performance of systems. Consider you're developing an application in local and it works fine in your development environment, and it also works fine in your production environment for some time. And in a particular case or some scenario, there is some error occurring in your production environment and you're unable to replicate it in your dev environment. In such cases, only if logs are available, you'll be able to track and identify what is the actual root cause of. Logs are used for troubleshooting and debugging. Logs provide detailed information about errors and issues, makes it easy to identify and fix problems. Also for monitoring and observability. Logs help to monitor the health and performance of application and infrastructure. They enable protective detection of issues before they impact users. Also for security and compliance, consider there is a security incidents and without the logs you won't be able to trace it. Many regulation standards require logging for compliance purposes. Logs are also very necessary for auditing and accountability. Provides a trail for actions and changes. Even though there are a lot of benefits of logging, there are still some minor SaaS products which do not incorporate logging from what I see. Most of the major companies, big tech companies, all have their logging, compliance, auditing, everything, but some ignore to log. And what would actually happen if people ignore to log things? First one is increased downtime. Consider you're using an application and it works well in dev, as I said previously, and only in production there is some type of attack and it has gone down. And without the help of the logs, you won't be able to make it up. And even if you make it up, there are chances it will go again down. So this might increase your downtime, which might potentially impact your users who are using the system. And for big tech companies, they may even lose customers. Next one is security risks. This security risk actually affects many companies, even top tech as well as startup companies. But especially when startup companies actually start developing their products, they focus less on security. Usually ethical hackers or who finds bugs and all those, they usually target systems where employees are less than 500. If anyone is actually targeting those type of companies, the startup might not know like who is attacking the system. So there is a high end of security perspective things, so it's necessary to log things. Next one is the compliance violations. Regulatory compliance identifies the regulations, laws, policies, and rules an organization should follow to protect the data of its employees, partners, and customers. These regulations apply across the application environment, guiding everything from who accesses the application to where the workload runs. Fail to maintain proper logs, this can result in non-compliance with regulatory requirements, leading to legal and financial penalties.
Hackers stole login information and nearly 3 million credit card numbers from 38 million Adobe users.
Yahoo's internal security team thereafter was aware that the same hackers were continuously targeting Yahoo's user database throughout 2015 and early 2016, and also received reports that Yahoo user credentials were for sale on the dark web.
So how to configure logging? So usually when you have to configure logging, it involves like several steps like choosing a logging framework, setting log level, formatting log message, and also choosing log destinations. How do you choose a logging framework? Choose a logging framework which satisfies your technology and what programming language you use. Usually when you go to Google and find, you will have several logging systems available. It's better to try each one and see, and also mainly check the community members and the fault tolerance parts. And usually some logging systems which are newly developed may not be able to handle a large number of logs. And also some logging systems would have a limit, like one log would be having a certain set of limits. So these factors are something which you have to see while you're choosing any logging framework. So one is setting the log levels. There would be different log levels like info, warn, debug, and much more. Like debug could give the information about all the log informations, and the warning message could give only the warning related, like if there's any correction errors or those type of errors, it could be provided in the warn log messages, and error logs would log only the errors. And like this, you can set different type of levels, so it will be helpful for you to filter things and check when any of your application or anything misleading happens in your application. Next one is about formatting the log messages. Should the log messages be JSON type or it should be some string type? And how much length should a log message be? Because some centralized logging systems, when there is a length of the log, or if there is any more MB in a single log message, it won't get logged. Like even it won't get transported. So those type of things all we need to see when we are actually trying to log things. Whenever you're dealing with different microservices, it's better to incorporate consistency and readability across different microservices logs. Some useful things which has to be in log message is the message timestamp, the log message, and its context. Next one is to choose the log destination. Usually when the user base grows and if there are different microservices and we have to collect all those logs, it's necessary to choose a destination where you can organize all the logs as a centralized logging system. And then it will be very helpful for you to monitor or look after those. Logs could be either transported as they could be in remote logging files, or they could be present in databases or stored as files. And when this log starts to accumulate more and more, there should be some retention policies where we have to store logs and we have to also migrate logs and archive those, because when more logs accumulate, it will actually increase the storage. So we need to find some way of organizing these logs. Next one is integrating with the logging services. Usually after logging with the frameworks, your local and everything, whenever you're trying to deploy it in dev or your production environments, it's necessary to store all your logs in a centralized location. So there are many logging services like Elasticsearch, OpenSearch, and Kubernetes. We have Loki and much more like Grafana and much more tools which actually helps you to collect all those logs and display it. You can use centralized logging solutions like Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, or you can also try some services like AWS self-hosted services like AWS CloudWatch or Google Cloud logging functions, or even Azure Monitor, in order to collect all your logs and display it in a single interface. Centralized logging provides log management capabilities and provides powerful search to simplify your logging mechanisms. Consider a scenario where there are different microservices involved, where you sign in into your system and you upload an image and then you download an image. When you try to download an image, it occurs an error after you upload. In this scenario, the user management part comes into the logging part, whereas your download part comes into the document microservice part, and when you're uploading, it comes into the uploading microservice part. So there are 3 different microservices involved. In this case, only if there's a logging and it's a tracking mechanism. Usually people use a correlation ID or tracking ID for every log to identify the common request among that. With the help of that, we'll be able to easily identify, even if it passed with a different microservice, what was the actual path happened and what was the actual error occurred. So this would be really helpful when you're dealing with very large applications or when there is a different set of microservices involved. This centralized logging system would be really handy. You can also have real-time monitoring alerts. Consider a person is trying to log into the system and he enters the wrong password more than 10 to 15 times. Then it might be some other person is trying to enter into the system. So these patterns could be actually tracked, and we can have alerting mechanism and monitoring mechanisms to actually detect these type of things. Logging is an example, but there could be other examples like brute forcing and even other type of injection attacks where people try to enter the script. We'll be able to track it in log and immediately monitor to the security team. So we'll be able to track things and make proper things to fix those. Tools like Prometheus and Grafana can also help you to monitor the system information and also visualize the system health. There are some big mistakes which majority of people do in logging. One main thing is overlogging. Consider you're having a system where a user just signs to the system. When he signs in, you'll have a set of debug logs put by the developer where each and every line is getting logged. When each and every lines are actually getting logged, there's a high level possibility that even the username or especially the password also gets logged. So just to have a sign-in request, it's enough to log only the request and the response body. Instead, if you log the entire debug information, it is actually overlogging and it actually overloads the system. It's very, very important to understand what to be logged and avoid logging sensitive information. Also note that logging is not a substitute for testing. Don't bypass testing and do only logging. I see many GitHub code spaces and repository code online where everything is being logged. It's a symptom for poor testing and poor code maintenance and poor logging technique. Seems like they're logging the request, the response, and even the catches, and even if any console log statements are hit in the browser or any print statements, that is getting logged, and even a DB query, what is going as input, what is coming out, everything, each and everything is getting logged. It's not necessary you need to log so much information. Engineers must be able to understand only with the help of the request and response what went wrong and be able to debug it. Especially if an error occurs, you would get some error information. So request, response, and error information would be more than enough if something is going wrong with the system. And some exception errors which might occur in the server side can be logged by capturing it as an unhandled exception error. But it's not necessary to log each and every information in the system. It's enough to log the request and response. Instead of response, we get any exception errors, log that. That is far more than enough to handle all your log information and also to debug it. Few scenarios like unhandled exception errors and even server failures should be logged. It could be caught as an unhandled exception error. If you miss to log these and also specific information, it comes under underlogging, which also affects your system. So you incorporate logging just by having some statements, and if some error occurs, you won't be able to debug things because you have underlogged an application. So this also has to be avoided. Next one is inconsistent logging. Some people log few statements just as string and few as a JSON type, and there will be some inconsistency with the format of logging. Like for example, if you have something called request URL, sometimes it could be logged as a string, whereas few scenarios it could be a request URL which would be JSON object with an IP and a URL. So these type of complications or improper way of logging shouldn't happen. If it's a request URL, it should always be a string. Summary: logging is an unavoidable practice which is necessary for each and every organization to secure as well as to monitor your regular activities of your users, what they are doing. Understanding how to log things, you will be very confident enough to troubleshoot and also maintain your infrastructure in a better way. Also consider some of the basic logging needs which is necessary and to avoid some mistakes which would actually help you to maintain and organize log in a better way. If you have any thoughts or opinion about what I have said, you can let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy watching the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, as it would really mean a lot. Thank you for your attention and I hope I provided some valuable insight. See you in the next video. Bye.